Third-generation aircraft carrier Gerald R. Ford. America prepares credible shield for Taiwan. It's the most expensive aircraft carrier. After 14 years of design and construction, it cost $13.3 billion by the end of 2021, according to the U.S. Navy. That's about double the cost of the previous Nimitz series aircraft carrier. And how much criticism there's been over it. It was called a headache for the Pentagon, an unnecessary waste of money. Many military experts agreed that the American Navy simply did not need such an expensive and complex aircraft carrier. But now, when the war over Taiwan between China and the U.S. in the foreseeable future seems almost predetermined, the truth is becoming clearer and clearer that such a super complex strategic naval weapon is necessary. Otherwise, how do you suggest fighting the most advanced Chinese army armed with the 5th-generation fighters and plenty of modern warships more than 7,000 miles off the U.S. coast? Well, meet the world's largest warship, the 3rd-generation, super-modern aircraft carrier Gerald R. Ford, serial number CVN-78. The giant ship, with a displacement of more than 100,000 tons, is stuffed with the latest technologies, which made it so fabulously expensive and disrupted its construction schedule by about 2 years. The development of the most powerful aircraft carrier in the U.S. Navy began in the mid-1990s. The new ship was laid in 2005. It was to replace the first U.S. nuclear-powered aircraft carrier, USS Enterprise, which had been in service since the early 1960s. The next, 3rd-generation aircraft carrier initially had special requirements. It had to be equipped with a more powerful nuclear power plant than its predecessors, carry more aircraft on board, and have increased survivability. The designers abandoned their plans to turn it into a stealth ship using stealth technology. It was too expensive and complicated. However, the designers managed to make the Ford less noticeable in comparison with the Nimitz. In addition, using modern algorithms and equipment, the designers planned to reduce the cost of maintaining the giant. The automation of many processes would have significantly reduced the number of the crew. However, this was only partly achieved. More than 4,500 people are responsible for the maintenance and control of the aircraft carrier. On aircraft carriers of the Nimitz type, this figure reaches 5,270 people. Externally, the new aircraft carrier resembles the aircraft carriers of the previous generation. To reduce costs, it was decided to keep the hull from the good old Nimitz, only partially improving it for the sake of all the same low visibility. The deckhouse was placed closer to the stern and the bridge was moved to the lower deck to reduce the size of the superstructure. The cabins and some accommodation spaces were pushed into the hull, with the superstructure located over the sideline. The result of all these contrivances did not make this 1,106-foot long, 256-foot wide, 134-foot high sea monster invisible, but on cruise missile radar, it's indistinguishable from the rest of the carrier strike group. What target to hit? You won't put a kamikaze on board. The hull is old, but it has 2 new A1B nuclear reactors that produce a quarter as much energy as their counterparts on previous generations of ships. The reactors are designed for 50 years of operation and will not require refueling during this time. They have the power to propel a 100,000-ton ship at 30 knots, 34.5 miles an hour. In the Second World War, torpedo boats sailed at that speed, and that was in attack mode. The Gerald R. Ford takes up to 90 aircraft, helicopters, and drones. There are F-35C fighter bombers, FA-18EF Super Hornet attack fighters, E-2D Advanced HAWKEYE AWACS aircraft, and MH-60RS multi-role helicopters, plus more strike drones. Note the number of aircraft. If at least half of them will be F-35C, it means that on one aircraft carrier alone, there will be more 5th-generation fighters to Taiwan than China has in total. But that will not be the only headache for the Chinese. As is known, aircraft from an aircraft carrier take off using a catapult, and an acro finisher is used for landing. Their performance determines the number of aircraft departures per unit time, the most important characteristic of an aircraft carrier. On the Ford, the designers used an electromagnetic catapult for the first time instead of the classic steam catapult. As a result, they achieved 160 sorties per day. And if it's really necessary, it's possible to make 220 sorties. The Nimitz provided only 120 sorties, and 100 extra modern fighters is enormous. Besides, the takeoff landing system on the new aircraft carrier is twice as light as on the pair. When you consider that catapults on aircraft carriers account for 20% of the total mass, it's quite an achievement. The floating airfield's self-defense system, not counting the escort ships, is armed with RIM-116 and RIM-162 surface-to-air missile launchers that have a range of 10 and 50 kilometers respectively. A dual-band DBR radar system completes the ship's air defense system. We're not going to bore you with the technical specifications, only to note that such a system is installed on another wonder of the American Navy, the DDG-1000 ZUMWALT new generation destroyer. But when one wants to build 100,000 tons of the latest technology at once, malfunctions are inevitable. The malfunctions became apparent as soon as the new ship was launched. Specialists found several serious problems with the systems that ensure takeoff and landing. First of all, the test results showed poor performance of the electromagnetic air finishers. The designers of the ship claimed they would be able to receive 1,600 aircraft without failures, but in practice this number did not exceed 25. And the electromagnetic catapult provided only 400 takeoffs instead of the claimed 4,000. When sea trials began, the propeller shaft bearings failed rather quickly. The ship was returned to port, and it took several months to rectify the fault. As of December 2018, the ship's 11 new electromagnetic hoists for moving ammunition onto the flight deck were not working, but engineers persevered step by step to fix the deficiencies identified. A year ago, in June 2021, an extensive reliability test was carried out on all systems on the aircraft carrier, from the onboard computers to the nuclear reactor after severe concussions. Special test equipment was installed on the ship before the test. In addition, the ability of the aircraft carrier's crew to repair any possible serious damage was tested. The first underwater test explosion occurred on June 18th off the coast of Florida. The concussion it caused was rated 3.9 on the Richter scale. The ship survived the test with honor. It's planned that the aircraft carrier Gerald R. Ford will start to carry out combat missions this year. The USA plans to build 10 floating airfields of the Gerald R. Ford type in all. They'll replace the obsolete Nimitz-class aircraft carriers. The next aircraft carrier in the series, John F. Kennedy, is scheduled to enter service in 2024. The last 10th is as far back as 2058. And so far, no other country, including its main geostrategic rivals, China and Russia, has or will have anything like the Gerald R. Ford, so the U.S. will have a decent response to the very possible aggression of a huge authoritarian China against tiny democratic Taiwan. And anyway, as long as the U.S. has 10 powerful carrier strike groups, it's the most powerful superpower in the world. Well, no money is spared for such status. I'd like to know what you think about these third-generation aircraft carriers. Do they justify the money that's already been spent on them and will be spent in the future? Or is it possible to spend it more wisely? Write your comments below the video. And of course, subscribe to our channel and enable notifications so as to not miss new interesting videos.